And welcome to the Mulligan Stew Podcast. I'm TerryDavidMulligan. We've been doing a series of interviews with the artistic directors of the Winnipeg, Calgary, Vancouver Island folk music festivals. The last two are Jenna Klein Waller from Canmore, the artistic director, and the legendary Terry Wickham, artistic director of the Edmonton Folk Music Festival. They speak for themselves. I'm Terry David Mulligan. This is Mulligan Stew, CKUA Radio. It's the Mulligan Stew Podcast and the Terry David Mulligan YouTube channel. Once a year, if I can do it, I try to hook up with Terry Wickham, the artistic director of the Edmonton Folk Music Festival, and I've done so this year. Hello, Terry.
Hey, Terry.
Now that you, first of all, because I've been asking the other artistic directors about the state of the business, the union, so to speak, the lay of the land. Once you started to do your booking and planning and moving about the business, did you see changes that you hadn't expected, or what? Was it any more difficult or easy?
You know, the pandemic was difficult. Coming back from the pandemic in 2022 was difficult, but we had a really hot lineup. If I had to dream, I got a dream lineup that year. Yeah. So the tickets sold really well. But we were always waiting for another shoe to drop in 2022. Is there going to be another variant come along? What's going to happen? We had to check everybody had to be double vaccinated to be backstage, because that was the industry standard. I had a few arguments with some people, and they were saying, well, there's no scientific proof for what you're doing. And I said, hang on a second. Is an unvaccinated person more likely to make a vaccinated person sick? And they said, yes. I said, there's my proof. And it's the industry standard. Fees have gone up, but I don't get too caught up in that. You know, if someone wants $500,000, promise they're not going to get it. So we got lucky, certainly with Robert Plant and Alison Krauss, and The agent was very good to me. I've known him for 35 years, so he didn't beat me up. You know, the most expensive thing is, you know, things like site and flights and food. You know, we use all those things. All those have gone up. I think our site costs have pretty well doubled over the last 4 or 5 years. So people are noticing some price increases, but we're doing really well. We sold out the weekend passes in a day. We sold out Sunday night in less than a day. We sold out Saturday night in a day, and we just have some tickets left for Thursday and Friday. Thursday's got Ben Howard and Black Pumas, and Friday has Blue Rodeo.
Nicely done. And Blue Rodeo coming back for, what is there? Do we know the history? How many times now?
I don't know if I want to say that, but I think about 10. I get some flack when I bring in Blue Rodeo. It's funny because they're a great band. They're really nice guys, and they've been very good to folk festivals across the country. People think I book them every year. I don't. I book them about every 3 or 4 years.
How can you possibly knock somebody for being successful in one of the best bands in the land? I don't understand that.
You know, not everybody likes them, I guess. And, you know, I definitely find an ageist thing coming in. You probably find it. It doesn't matter what experience you have. There are some people that want to troll me and kind of go, yeah, it's time to leave, da-da-da-da. Even if, you know, we're bringing in a lot of young people into the lineup every year. You know, we had the National and the War on Drugs and all sorts of people. But that's just what people do. I don't go on social media, but I hear about it. I'm not on Facebook or anything.
All right. Well, good on you. I mean, if they're about to celebrate their 40th anniversary as a band next year. But if you look back, how long has Robert Plant been with us? How long has Eric Bibb been with us?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, you know, people can get better as they get older, because if you're 22 years old and you've been playing guitar for 6 or 7 years, that's one thing. If you're 57 and you've been playing the guitar for 20 or 34 years, then, you know, you tend to get better, not worse.
I had a chance to talk to Doug Cox about the Vancouver Island Music Festival. I was saying about the booking. He said, we've always leaned into the legacy of the music business. We were looking for, unfortunately, what we're looking for are the roots of where everybody came from. And those folks are either going off the road or we're losing them. And I'm kind of wondering, are you aware of that time going by, you?
Well, of course, every year there's losses. Alias Ron Kavanagh this year. We've had a lot of the legends. We've been lucky that way.
Yeah.
From whether it's Van Morrison or Joni Mitchell or Elvis Costello. And the ones we didn't get, they were too big, just too expensive. Like a Paul Simon, we couldn't afford. Neil Young, we couldn't afford. But I'm really happy with our track record. But there are legends that aren't that popular as well. I'm kind of missing the Guy Clarks of the world. Although I think Jake Xerxes Fussell, he doesn't have the long track record of Guy Clark yet, but he shows a lot of potential. So, yeah, in some ways, I think maybe we don't have enough legends. The Jerry Douglases of the world, that kind of thing. The Zakir Hussains that Doug is bringing in. So I'd like to get a really good collection of classic bluegrass players next year, not like a special event, like Telluride does. But Telluride is a bluegrass festival, so they have a lot of the same people every year. But I'm going to try and put something like that together again next year, because I miss the political songwriters. There aren't that many. We have a few, and I do miss the really top class players, although we have a few, but I'd like a few more. We kind of curtailed a little bit and narrowed down our programming a little bit just to be able to handle it coming back. But now I think next year I can kind of expand again back up to 60 artists or so.
Terry Wickham, Artistic Director of the Edmonton Folk Music Festival, August the 8th through 11th, literally right around the corner. You mentioned Ben Howard, love him. You mentioned Black Pumas, that lead singer from the Pumas, busked those songs that he became famous for 11 years before he got to record them, and all of a sudden he's winning Grammys for the same songs that he busked for 11 years. I have a thing about buskers. The Black Flamosi.
Buskers have a great record at this festival here. People who did that, like Passenger was a busker. They know how to get people's attention. They know the tricks. And whether it's 20 people or 20,000 people, then, they're always good on stage.
Let me throw some names at you. I have fun with that.
Yeah.
Boy Golden.
Been reading about him, saw a thing on the Globe and Mail. He's quite a character. I think he'll be a lot of fun.
I like that. I like that a lot. Fantastic Negrito.
Well, I heard about him from Calgary. I can't say I was very familiar with him before, but all the buzz coming back from people that went to Calgary last year was he stole the show. So I thought, well, okay, let's have a listen to him. And what do I know anyway? So we brought him in. I see Kerry is bringing him back, so that's always a good sign. If someone is a pain in the we don't bring them back, and it happens very, very rarely in folk music. So I'm expecting something really good. I think he's playing Bear Creek as well.
I see J.D. McPherson is not only doing sets on side stages, but is also in the touring band for Robert Plant and Alison Krauss. Well,
that's kind of how it worked out. He was going to be here anyway, and with his band, because they're the opening band on the tour, and
Sure.
The agent said to me, there's no pressure, but could you do that? And I said, of course we'll do that. So, and I gave him a good spot. I think he's on Sunday, 3:00 on stage one.
Exactly that. The Robert Plant Alison Krauss tour is certainly one of the top tours of the summer of the year, any year. To get them and announce them, it just sets the flag on the pole is what it does. It gets everybody's attention. And it's quite remarkable that he especially found someone who believed in the music that he wanted to make, and it shows in their voices. It should be an incredible concert.
Considering where we are, we're a little bit out of the geographical mainstream. We've done pretty well on one-offs like that. I heard about it last July. I tried to get Robert Plant about 10 years ago and thought I had him, and then I think things slipped under the radar. It was forgotten about, and anyway, the agent somewhere in the back of his mind thought about it. So he told me last July, and I had to sit on it until February. So no, he's great. In fact, there's a funny connection in that he's a really big soccer fan. He used to, in the height of Led Zeppelin, he'd turn up with these bunch of guys. He'd wear a hat, and they'd all be together, and they had no idea who he was. And he would just enjoy the soccer game standing. They used to stand then. Now that it's all cedar. He's involved with Wolverhampton Wanderers, or wolves, as they're called. They're from Wolverhampton. Well, my grandmother was from Wolverhampton, and my grandfather was from Dublin, and he went over there. And her father was involved in soccer. And that's how they met. They met through Wolverhampton Wanderers because he was the main cashier, her dad, taking the money in when it wasn't as much money back in the 1920s. It was probably a shilling in or something. But the end of the story of this is if there was no Wolverhampton Wanderers, there'd be no Terry Wickham.
There you go.
People might be cursing, of course, Wolverhampton Wanderers for that. But anyway, my wife got me a lovely, it's about kicking out racism, kick it to touch, and it's got Wolverhampton Wanderers on it. So if I remember, I'm going to wear it on the night just
Very
as
nice.
a surprise.
Very nice. And I love the fact now that they have become so comfortable, the two of them, that they're now starting to include Led Zeppelin songs, but Led Zeppelin songs that had folk roots that they sort of lifted off, right? It's really cool. He's come back with 3 or 4 or 5 songs in their sets. It's fantastic. It's going to blow their minds. It's going to blow their minds.
Here's another one.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, don't lose your thought, but Elizabeth also does a Led Zeppelin song. I think it's California, and she does it in her indigenous language. So that could be fun. Unfortunately, she's not here on Sunday, or I'd put them on before
you have a wonderful indigenous component this year.
We're making a commitment. We had a big one last year, and we had a big one the year before, and we have a permanent one that's coming in called Nihamoan, which means song in Cree.
Yeah. I
want this installation to educate people about indigenous culture in a wider way than just music. But yeah, I'm happy with the. I remember doing a concert by the Chieftains, and I was the fiddler in the band. He said to me, "How come there's no traditional Canadian music in Canadian folk festivals?" And I said, "Oh yeah, there is. There's Quebecois, there's singer-song, there's all sorts of stuff." And he said, "No, I mean like traditional." And he was meaning indigenous. And I thought, he's right there. Okay. And the thing that got me going on all that is the idle no more. I mean, I came to this country as an immigrant, settler in the new language. And I was asking people what happened, what were the residential schools, what's all this? Forget about talking about it, do something. So we're always, as long as I'm here, we're going to have a strong indigenous component.
I was struck by Sultans of String, the Walking Through the Fire. It's going to be incredible with all those voices on stage.
Yep. And if I could squeeze Ruben in the Dark and Bullhorn Singers, I would. But
yes. And Wyatt C. Lewis, who was on Mulligan Stew 6 months ago. The album hadn't even been released yet, but I'd heard about him. And then when I heard his voice, I thought, I really like him. So I'm nice to see Wyatt C. Lewis there.
He came in last year as part of School of Song.
La Misa Negra from the San Francisco Bay Area.
Yep.
Mixing Spanish and some English?
Oh, yeah. Yes, they're really lively on stage. I had, I had Lucas Nelson confirmed in there, and then he had to drop out. So then I didn't go and replace him. I just moved someone in from the lineup and give them a chance. So that's the way that came about. They're from the Bay Area. So is Orchestra Gold. So is Fantastic Negrito. And I think they all know each other. So I put them all in a session the next day together and see what they do.
I'm looking forward to seeing Dawes again because I love their harmonies. I think they're a very, truly honest band. Leith Ross, Leif Vollebeck, Robert Finley. What a great voice. Finley. What a story.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, he's got a song there about alligators where essentially his grandfather was using him as bait for the alligators to get them to come up or something like that when he was fishing. I don't know. And he came back and he was outraged. He said to his dad, and he said, "Oh, he did that to you too. He did it to me."
It's just amazing. He's just going to steal the show. He'll steal his night. Well then, what am I missing? What else do we want to? What's going on?
Here's one. Angie McMahon from Australia. If you get a chance to listen to her music, I think there's one called "Learning My Way Home," which is an odd phrase, but "Learning My Way Home." It kind of got a Springsteen kind of feel in that it builds. It's a really good driving song. But we've been really keen on her. not just that song. And she's big in Australia. She can sell out the Sydney Opera House, I think, twice over, but she's not known here. But I think we're giving her, we have a spot second last on Saturday night, just when it turns dark. And sometimes we put someone really well known in there. So when Norah Jones won all the Grammys, that's where she went. And we convinced them. I said, no, second last is better than last, because last goes late and people leave. Some people leave. And then we put Brandy Carlisle in there in 2010 when no one knew her, and she blew the place away. So that's what we're hoping that Angie McMahon is going to do.
We have forgotten one. No, not forgotten, just we've left aside as a amuse-bouche. Rhiannon Giddens, who has been coming since Carolina Chocolate Drops.
Yeah, well, I was going to mention her because she's on before Angie McMahon. Of course, she's great. She married an Irishman, unfortunately for her. But I don't think they're together. But yeah, she lives in Ireland, so it's been hard to get her. I mean, every year I've been trying. We've had her a few times before. We had her with Carolina Chocolate Drops. We had her as Rhiannon Giddens. This is a different setup of band. So I just said to the agent, look, phone me when she is touring, because I know I think she's got at least one kid, Aoife, and there's two Aoifes coming, and I think they're both kids of people in the band, herself and someone else. So that's kind of funny. But she has to arrange all that, and maybe the kid is old enough now that can tour with him, and that makes it easier. But yeah, she's a MacArthur Genius Fellow. She's won a Pulitzer Prize, I think. She's been on Beyonce's new album.
Yeah,
she's very keen on teaching people how the banjo made it into American music, and of course it came from Africa and then was adopted, and now the bluegrass guys own it. I love a good banjo. Some people, they talk about what's a perfect pitch. It's putting a banjo in a dumpster without hitting either side. But I don't feel that way. I always find with some of the Irish bands, it really drives the music along. It's a really fast instrument, if you know what I mean.
Who's the best banjo player this year on the stage?
Well, Rhiannon Giddens. We have A.J. Lee coming in, bluegrass band, and they don't have a banjo.
Okay.
That's one of their claims to fame, is they don't have a banjo at all. But there'll be a few banjos around. Although I think I'm missing again some of that, that kind of glue, that kind of core folk music. We have a lot of singer-songwriters, and I might have leaned a little too heavily into that and get a little bit more acoustic players. The Tony McManuses of the world, the Martin Simpsons. Although we did try him, he hasn't been touring over here, so that's not like we didn't try. But I go back to the Jerry Douglases. If you can get the best in the world, why not?
Why not? Exactly that. I love the booking, as always. I love the place. I love the people. I like the way it's run. What it does is it shows the characters of the people who are actually running and caring about it year in and year out. That's you. I like...
I sometimes I think, I don't do enough in the world. I could do more. I could probably do bigger things, but I don't think I could do anything better. Ben Harper was on stage last year, and he said, this is the best place in the world for live music. And I'm fairly accurate on that quote. That took me back because I don't see all the other places. And I remember members of the National were discussing, well, which do you think is more beautiful, this or, Red Rocks Amphitheater?
Okay.
And they were discussing that. And I think we were winning. I'm not sure, but I think we were winning. I think what people like is they know we're real. The artists come in and the stage is like, the barrier. They all talk about barriers in the concert riders. Sure. And get a barrier. Our barrier is 2 foot high. It's you can step over it. Kid could step over it. Snow fence. I see festivals and they put up a metal fence right in front, and everybody's sitting down. So what are they doing? They're watching all the bands through a metal fence. I'm going, these are your most committed, patrons. When they get in, like, put yourself in their seat. And it drives me crazy when I see that. So just, drop it. Put security in front of the stage so nothing's going to happen. I mean, one person came over it, and she was, I think, well into whatever, and he just danced her out through the backstage. She was dancing, and the security just danced her out. So it's all the Canadian festivals are very special. But I came to Edmonton in '86 for the first time, and then '88 as a guest. And I just thought there was something very, very special about Edmonton and the feel and the energy, and of course the site. I mean, I ran 2 festivals without didn't even know they existed, stage 3, 5, and 6, and I still had sound lead. And then the kitchen area used to be at stage 3.
Yeah.
And I looked up and I went, I've got sound lead. What am I going to do? It's like not seeing the wood for the trees, right? Literally. And then I went for a walk and I found 5 and 6. I found 4, but I got rid of that because it caused sound bleed. Yeah, no, well, it was John Prine's favorite festival, and he was supposed to close in 2020, and then he was supposed to close in 2022, and all that, or well, 2020. I think he might have died in 2020. Might have. It was either that or 21, but I think it was 2020. But he was supposed to close the show, and he'd cancelled in 2019 because he was getting some surgery. So, yeah, he really liked the show. That was one of the best days I've had in the office, when the journalist phoned me and he had said that to him, and he said, "Oh, I'm sure you say that to all the festivals." And John said, "No, I don't, and I wish I could." And Brandy Carlisle has said that to me, so I'm kind of taken aback because I don't know the wider world of music out there, but I know this one has a really good feel. And everybody leaves pretty happy.
Terry, thank you for this. Tickets still available for Thursday, Friday?
Some tickets are available for Thursday, Friday. Yeah, there's in total there's just between 2,000 and 2,500 left total, and they'll start to go. They may not totally sell out, but we'll sell most of them.
And your website is
EdmontonFolkFest.org. I mean, if you just type Edmonton Folk, it'll come up.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you.
The always engaging Terry Wickham, the artistic director of the Edmonton Folk Music Festival, August 8th through 11th. August 3 through 5, Jenna Klein Waller, artistic director, Canmore. Glorious location, very memorable. You have headliners galore.
We do, yeah. So this is my first year with the festival. I've been working with some really wonderful mentors, 2 of which are in this call right now. So it's been a really, really lovely journey moving into this world and booking these amazing bands, and really looking forward to bringing these artists to Canmore.
What night is Blue Rodeo?
Blue Rodeo is Monday night, so closing out.
And Dan Mangan?
Dan Mangan's Saturday, so we'll have Dan Mangan followed by Lido Pimenta, Elisa P opening for Blue Rodeo, and Jeremy Dutcher on the Sunday, opening by Boy Golden.
Lido Pimenta.
Yeah, so that'll be a really wonderful. I think as Fiona kind of talked to this, we're trying to reach a new audience that Canmore hasn't had for a very long time. We're a 47-year-old festival. We can see our audience aging. And so as I come in, I'm trying to meet the demographic of both the old and the new. And so I think Lido is a really great way to bring people dancing, to bring people moving, to appeal to a demographic that may not even be familiar with our festival. So that's where I'm coming from this year. We're trying to bring the old and the new. So we've got James Keelahan, who first played our festival in 1984, I believe, moving into someone like Lido, who's this is their first year.
Are the Buckleys coming as a pair, or are they one-off?
They are one-offs, but they'll be workshopping together.
Okay. So yeah. Marielle and T together.
Yeah, so you get the best of both worlds. So they'll be workshopping together as well as with other folks, and then you'll see them and their solo shows.
It's the harmonies that go with both of them. I love that. Tell me what's going on with Boy Golden and the Church of Better Days with a Z.
So they're a wonderful band from Winnipeg that I've seen a few times recently, but the first time I really saw them was at Calgary Folk Fest last year. Just the way they workshopped, the way that they were working that crowd, having the best time. So we're bringing Boy Golden as well as Fontaine, who we're really excited about. We've got lots of Winnipeg talent this year.
Catherine McClellan.
Yes, PEI Gem. So everyone's really excited about Catherine. When I mentioned Catherine to the Canmore audience, they seem really thrilled that we're bringing Catherine in. She's never played the festival. So we're really thrilled to have her. I think she'll be a wonderful workshopper. We've got her on the stage with James Keelahan, Connie Calder, just bringing in some wonderful songwriting.
Who comes to the Canmore Fest? Where do they come from? Do you get a sense of do they travel a distance, or are they local? What are they?
We see a predominantly Alberta audience, but we're seeing a lot from the upper states right now in our tickets. So I think we're getting more and more folks coming up from Montana who seem to know about our festival, a lot from Alberta. So we did a fairly heavy Alberta focus on our lineup as well. You'll see a ton of Alberta names, sometimes a little bit more emerging or mid-career Alberta bands. So we're trying to extend our reach over into Edmonton, extending past Calgary, things like that. But we do see a lot of Alberta folks that come to our festival, but we're trying to expand that.
Jenna, what's your website?
It's canmorefolkfestival.com.